This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
The one, the only, Andrew Pjeter. Welcome to the podcast, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Glad to be here. Super excited.
I know, man. I'm excited to have you on, dude.
Yeah,
It's almost been too long. I should have had you on earlier.
Yeah.
So
I would have been the first one.
Yeah.
Podcast wouldn't have taken off, but you know.
I don't even know if it has. No, the stats on podcasts are weird because they don't give them to you, right? Apple will just tell you how many downloads you have in a month.
Oh, okay.
And Spotify, I don't think it gives you any. And then you use different uploading softwares, and they keep track of some of the stuff, but not really, right? And so
They check the downloads, but if somebody downloads it and listens to for like 30 seconds, like you don't know if they listened to the whole thing or if they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
YouTube gives you the best stats because you can see each individual video and all that kind of stuff. But like I cannot tell which episodes do the best.
Oh,
You know what I
interesting.
mean? Not even all. So, and my downloads grow every month, which is good, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it's good it's not declining, but
All right.
it's like I think I'm up to about 15,000 is about where I'm at. So 15,000 downloads a month. So.
Hopefully we don't peak out with this one.
We'll never know. We'll never know. Actually, I'll probably tell on YouTube. YouTube is I'm starting to upload all of them on YouTube, and
Oh, okay.
I'm probably gonna. So August is my year mark where I've done a year of them.
Okay.
And so I'm probably gonna launch a little bit of a marketing plan to kind of market the podcast a little bit.
Awesome.
I'm just gonna see if I can grow the audience. I don't really have people have heard me say this a million times in the podcast, but I don't really have a monetization strategy, right? Like I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna find me some sponsors, and I hope a protein bar will give me $5,000 a month, to.
It's more of a
hawk their
recorded
shit.
history of what you're doing and how you live and who your friends are and everything for the kids, right?
Yeah, and then people I interact with and people I like, and I don't think I've ever had one guest that I thought, oh, this one will pull views.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like, a couple of the first ones I did, I had Jimmy and like Heather D's on, and my friend Paul Kruger and stuff like that. They're more famous type people, right?
Yeah.
It was, I guess I kind of front end stacked that a little bit just because I thought it'd be a good way to like pop off, but really it's my friends.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I mean? So, or like, and friends is a pretty broad, right? There's business friends, there's like high school friends, and like my men's group friends, all this kind of stuff. And so, I don't know, man. I just kind of like you were interacting with me when I was like, hey, I'm going to load this day up with some people. And I was like, oh, frick, yeah, Andrew, let's get Andrew on this thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, Andrew will be an expert in
Right.
some, you know what I mean? I'm going to really extract something out of him, It's just like, oh, freaking just shoot the shit and
Absolutely.
people end up liking it or they won't.
Yeah. We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, it's fun. So, so what was your expectations coming in today? I don't give people expectations, so I think it's funny to hear what they're thinking.
My expectations, just, try and relax, have a good time. And, any time spent with you is time well spent. So,
Yeah, well, thank you.
One of the smartest cats I know, and, obviously very successful at what you do. And what you do is a little bit of everything. So,
I know. I had Logan and his buddy Nate over yesterday, right? They came to see me in the office, and Nate was kind of like, well, what do you do? And I'm just like,
how many hours you got?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So even my go-to, though, is kind of funny, right? Because I'll go to these networking things, and sometimes I don't want to go. In fact, most of the time I don't want to go. Because I'd rather just hang out with my friends at this point.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Let's go golfing or something, or not. Let's go do something.
Yeah.
Right? And if I'm not in the mood to talk about me, which is generally where I'm at, funny enough, right? Until you actually want to start talking about stuff as subject, like character, like what people care about. When people get to that, I'm like, oh, this is fun. I like engaging with that.
Yeah.
But when you're doing the whole dick measuring thing where it's like, well, where do you work, man? What do you do?
Right,
Where do you spend your time?
Yeah.
I always just tell people I work in a manufacturing plant because it's true.
Yep.
Yeah, my office is in a manufacturing plant.
Exactly.
I just happen to own it.
Yeah. Doesn't sound sexy, but
It's not
what
sexy.
you do.
And people, are just like, oh, okay. And they don't even know what to say with it. Most people, literally, I don't think I've ever had anyone go, well, what do you guys manufacture?
Really? No,
they just don't
follow-ups,
care.
huh?
No, manufacturing plant.
Really?
I don't know if they assume I'm like a plant manager or maybe a lead on a line. Who the hell knows, right? But
yeah,
that's my go-to move.
Yeah, I just I mean, I describe a little bit about what I do. I you know, put people together.
Yeah.
You know, working on some different projects with different people that I've built up in my network for the last few years.
Yeah.
You know, my go-to, I've been in the insurance game for 20 years. You know, moved out to Salt Lake, the July after the Olympics, and that was supposed to be for 6 months, and lo and behold, still here.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Was that 01?
Was
it 02?
Yeah.
Was it 02?
Yeah, summer of 02.
I was on my LDS mission at the time, so.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even witness the Olympics here at all.
Really?
Not a minute of it, yeah.
Yeah, our buddy Dan, when he was on his mission, like it took him 6 months to find out what 9/11 was. Like it's the craziest thing in the world. Yeah, he was down in some hut in Mexico for God knows how long, but yeah, I think gosh, he told me like, he didn't find out till like January, February of the next year. Like,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Just
funny. I have to ask him about that.
Yeah.
See, 9/11. So the weird thing with me, so I went to Scotland and I hurt my back. I actually broke my back on my mission about 9 months in.
Oh, okay.
So I flew home and had back surgery. So I left in November of 2000. I came home in August of 2001.
Okay.
Right. I was home for 6 weeks to recover from back surgery. And then I went to Delta, Utah for another 6 weeks and back to my mission. I actually went back to my mission almost at my year mark and then finished it. And then came back at the end of 2002. But I was actually home for 9/11.
Oh.
I'll never forget it probably, right? So when you have back surgery, right, you're pretty immobile, I guess is the best way to put it. You're really just stiff, you know, because they open your muscles up, they go in and fix your spine, then they close your muscles back up and sew them back together, right?
Was it like L4, like lower back, right?
Yeah, L4, L5, just the usual spot for tall people, you know.
Oh, exactly, yeah. My L4, L5 likes to move forward on me a few millimeters if I don't keep my core correct.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just the shooting pain up your spine is, I mean.
That's me.
Like
That's sciatica.
My pain threshold is through the roof. I can take anything, but damn. That brings me to my knees.
I know, dude. My doctor was funny when I had my surgery. He goes, "Hey, let me explain something to you. But if you tell someone this, I'll never admit to it." I was like, "Okay." He's a funny dude, right? I grew up with him, and he goes, "The pain you've experienced is actually like twice as painful as pregnancy, because that's how bad this is."
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "But if you ever tell a woman that, I'll deny it." I was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, the same thing. I had, was it like 7 years ago? Well, back in college, I broke my nose and fixed it myself. So that was, mistake number one. But lasted for a good, 13, 14 years. And then I had my nose fixed. I was just having a ton of sleep problems, diagnosed with apnea. And, at one point, my wife would roll over and just start punching me and kicking me. Like I'd stop breathing for over a minute at a time. And
oh, geez.
Like oxygen saturation level when you're sleeping is supposed to be like low to mid 90s. Mine would drop into the 50s. So had my tonsils removed, and my doctor, same thing. He's like, listen, this is the absolute worst surgery an adult can go through. And,
the tonsils?
Yeah. Oh, God. And they were 4 times the normal size. They were like the size of almonds down into my muscles, all that kind of thing. But yeah, it took me, best diet plan ever. I'll tell you that, man. When you can't swallow anything, you can't eat anything. I would, I think I lived on like 4 or 5 sips of water and 2-3 sips of a Slurpee that the wife would go get me. Yeah. And dropped like 28 pounds in 9 days. And then...
You know what's funny about that story? I had the same thing happen to me.
Really?
I got my tonsils taken out 13 years ago.
Really?
So I was having a hard time breathing too, right? So when they explained it to me, I had, on one side, I had 83% of my windpipe was covered by one tonsil, and the other side was covered at like 40% or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And so we had my deductible with my daughter that year. So I went to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, right, or whatever, right? And said, hey, I've got these big tonsils. What do you want to do? He goes, oh, remove them if you want. Like, you probably should. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, no big deal.
He explained to me, like, it's going to suck a little bit, right? Yeah. But, like, I had no freaking idea.
Oh, my God.
The surgery's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they put you under, as you know, right? And
Yep.
then they basically have an ice cream scoop that has a built-in cauterizer, and they just go shoot, shoot, and pull both of them out, and it cauterizes the wounds, right?
Yep.
Now, what you don't quite understand, right, is that it's a big scab that's constantly wet.
Yes.
Because it's in your throat,
Yeah.
right? So the first day you're eating ice cream, you think you're in heaven because you're on drugs, right? You're like, oh, ice cream, this shit's blah, 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 blah. And then the next, like, dude, for me, it was like 3 weeks.
Really?
It took me about 3 weeks, and I finally sucked down some soup, and it was like sucking down razor blades, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's anything in that other than you're right, water's almost painful.
Yeah,
you almost have
absolutely.
to, like, learn to let it, like, fall off the back of your tongue and not actually swallow. You, like, let it just fall.
Yeah.
Right?
And I asked the doctor for, instead of taking pills, like, do you got like a morphine drip or like, something I could put on my tongue or whatever and make it easier? And he's like, it's just not strong enough.
Yeah.
So I would take, so I was supposed to take 1 to 2 pills every 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I would take 2 of them like every 3.5 hours. And before that, you get a lidocaine lollipop. Yeah. So you'd suck on that for a second, get it numb, and, just somebody stabbing you in the neck with a knife when you're just trying to swallow that little pill. And, you sleep a little bit too far past and the stuff wears off and you got to swallow those things again, man. It's just absolutely brutal. But I went through, oh man, I must have had 150 pills over.
How long ago was that?
2 weeks, like 7 years ago, 7 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
But I had that died, the tonsils out, and then they did, it's like a triple P where they shave a little bit off the uvula, and then, they just scrape out everything that's there. Cause when I go to sleep, the tongue rolls back a little bit, and that part of it would clog. And then also, with my nose, you've got 4 sinus cavities and 3 of them were clogged. Right. And he basically told me, because I would never get to that deep REM sleep. Yeah. He said, you probably haven't had a good night's sleep in like 15 years. Yeah. And like, I'd wake up tired, exhausted, and, but I sleep like a baby now, and
So did you have a CPAP machine, or do you just? Are
so
you clear?
I tried to use it. With insurance companies, you go for the cheap solution first. So I wore it for, I don't know, 2 weeks maybe. But the mask, the tubes, I tried all those things, and I'm like, it's I'm gonna need the surgery anyway. So let's just pretend
the surgery fixed it though, right?
Yeah. Pretend I use it for a month to satisfy the requirements, but and the other part is like I carry most of my weight either in my stomach or my neck for some reason, and I've lost, I don't know, man. When I was pushing maximum density, I could have sworn I remember seeing like 252 on the scale, but lost 50 pounds, and that takes a toll off, man, because like sleep apnea won't kill you, but the apnea kills your heart, your lungs, like, your brain, your sleep, just takes everything out of you. So it's, thank God, man.
No, that's those things that people need to get fixed. So I've had a CPAP now for, I don't know, 3 years. Maybe.
Oh, you do have one? Okay.
Oh yeah. I sleep with one every night.
Nice.
I love it. So I'm like a spokesperson for CPAPs, dude.
Nice.
Here's the I don't understand why everyone doesn't have one, really. Right? And
I mean, you really should.
I know that sounds funny, right? Because people are like, oh, I don't need one. And it's like, you don't understand. It pressurizes your esophagus all the way down to your lungs all night. That's all it does. It just opens it, right? Yep. And then, I've got the one, screw insurance, by the way. I just bought the damn thing because it's like, whatever, right? And I got the one that has like the humidified tube with the heated humidified tube, right? So it like creates the perfect scenario for you to sleep. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I can do the nose pillow and just keep my mouth shut. Some people have to put the full on like, oxygen mask on, but
yeah.
So I said this little nose pillow, it kind of goes around your head. I mean, it's not sexy, right? But I'm also married, so whatever.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm not going to ruin any
I'm not trying to get some ladies in the bed tonight. Even if I did, I'd be like, all right, night, and still put that damn thing on because dude, I get basically 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep every night, and I am like refreshed, ready to go, happy, energized. Yep. And there'll be a couple times I'll go to like a hotel, I'll go to town, and I'm like, I don't want to pack this damn thing, blah, 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 like 2 nights. And it's like First night, I'm like, okay. I wake up every other hour, you know, I have to get some water, you know, because I'm dry, because I'm breathing out of my mouth, you know, whatever.
Yep.
The second night, if I don't have my CPAP machine, it's fucking hell.
Wow.
Like every 45 minutes, I'm waking up, I'm dry as shit. I feel like shit. And I'm always like, now I don't. Even if it's an overnighter, I take my CPAP with me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then they're silent. That's another thing, right? CPAPs used to be loud, I guess.
Yeah.
But mine's absolutely whisper quiet. I bought the brand new version in January.
Oh, okay.
Right? And they're not cheap. They're like $1,200, right? Don't get me wrong. But like, if people understood what you were saying, like how damaging it is for you to not get good sleep, it's one of the most damaging things ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Other than, you know, drinking yourself to death or something, right? Like literally you are like destroying your organs if you don't oxygenate them, right?
Yep.
And so once you start doing that with the CPAP, man, it's like, oh, this is amazing, like every night. But you have to have a prescription to get one.
Yep.
You know, it must be an insurance thing, right? Because they're not going to reimburse.
100%, yeah.
You know that world.
You want insurance to pay for it, then you got to give them a good reason. And even when you do give them a good
break
reason,
their face to make them freaking do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a good night's sleep and getting into that deep, deep REM sleep. Like would barely dream, I mean, you're waking up every hour. Either on your own or your wife throwing an elbow at your forehead, you know, wake up. I mean, she thought I died a few times. Like it was like she was scared.
Oh, my wife, kicked me. My wife likes to kick.
Yeah.
A little donkey kick. Yeah.
So the funny part was when I went in for the surgery, anesthesiologist comes in, he talks to you and goes over things. And so there's a list of, stage 1 through 5, like 1, you know, no problem going under anesthesia. You'll come out pretty easily, not a big deal. And then he's going down the list and he's like, you're probably about a 3 or 4. And I was like, so you're telling me I got like 60% chance of waking up? And my wife was just, she went nuts. It was funny. So,
that's not good odds. What the hell's going on here?
Exactly. Yeah. And then, so I went to Michigan State. I'm a Spartan, and the anesthesiologist, he was from Wisconsin. So the last 5 minutes that I remember was just me nothing but talking shit about his football team and all that.
This guy's like going to choke you.
Like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that because you know, he's in control of waking me up. So
I'll tell you, dude. So I had my eyelids done last year.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
You remember that? Yeah. I ended up having a cyst on my freaking eyeball.
Really?
Right? So my good friend is a plastic surgeon. And
Dr. Nick.
Yeah, Dr. Nick. Yeah, you know Nick. Yeah. And I'm with Nick all the time, right? And he's looking at my eyes. I was, dude, I think I can shoot a steroid in there, right? And I was like, okay. So I go to his freaking office. You know, I'm sitting there in one of the rooms, right, one of the examination rooms. He comes in, you know, and he's gonna shoot this freaking thing in my eyeball, bro. And I was like fighting it like crazy. He's like, bro, anyways, he gets like barely a little bit in there, right? And so like 2 weeks later, it reduced it a little bit, but it didn't reduce it all the way, right? So he goes, hey, what we're going to do is put your stupid ass under, right? Because you won't take a shot like a man. And I'm like, well, okay, whatever. And he goes, I'll go in there and I'll scrape it all out. We'll clean it all out. He goes, but I have to do an eyelid lift on you to do it, right? Because I got to cut into it anyways. Yeah. And he goes, so we're going to do both sides because you look like you're winking all the time. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, blah, 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 blah. And it was so funny because his staff knows me, right? Because I've been there a lot, and we're always on social media together, right? So they're always like, "Oh, Mark, blah, blah," you know. And I went in there to go under, and the anesthesiologist is a super dope guy, right? He does bloodletting on me, you know, every quarter or something like that. And so I'm like laying in this thing, right? And they're like putting all the blankets on me, you know, making me all comfortable, and I'm sitting there, and they're like, "You ready, Mark?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And they're like, okay. You know, they just like, you know, put me out. I wake up and I'm talking to Nick a couple hours later, and he's like, dude, I didn't realize how nervous you were for this. And I was like, I wasn't nervous at all. They're like, what? They go, the guys think that you were like petrified stoned. Like you were so scared you couldn't even talk. I was like, best sleep of my life. Yeah. And I was actually totally okay going under. Like I wasn't nervous at all. All you do is my eyelids. It was like you're doing open heart surgery. I mean, I knew I was going to wake up. I've been under general a lot, you know? Yeah. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh, that's so funny because they seriously thought you were so scared that you like wouldn't move. I was like, hell no, dude. I was like in that thing waiting for my nap, you know?
Yeah,
I just want this shit over with. Yeah. Dude, by the way, eyelid surgery, easy. Super easy. And he's amazing at it. So it's a good thing. But like the only hard part with that, it doesn't hurt or anything after, right? You take a couple pills. I'm sure it would hurt if you were on some meds a little bit, right? Yeah. The problem is you can't touch your eyelid for like 10 days or 7 to 10 days or something like that. And you just have these massive
bandages. Then you forget about it and you just start rubbing it and you're like,
oh yeah. And it's just like, I want to freaking scratch these things so bad. But then it's like, then you're just going to like destroy your eyes because you'll like rip the scar tissue open and it'd be bad.
Yeah. Not too fun. Yeah. I had like a minor surgery on my back. I don't know, I think back in January. So yeah, like 4 or 5 months ago. And put me under, did the thing, and everything was totally normal. And then like a week later, like the cavity that they took the stuff out of, like filled with blood, and it just looked like a softball in my back, and so the wife freaked out. I was like, "Is this normal, babe? Because it kind of feels like there's like some pressure there." And I took my shirt off, looked in the mirror. I was like, "Oh my God!" Straight to the emergency room, and we're there for an hour. And the guy's like, "Nah, whatever, it'll go away." I was like, "Okay." It kind of looks weird, God, and dude. If it pops,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I know, dude. Doctors, man, I love them and they're good. Don't get me wrong, right? But like they're still guessing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I always tease Nick. I'm like, how many times you go to that book and think, holy shit, what is this holy shit? You know what I mean? And he's a good surgeon, so he's arrogant enough to never admit that he does that.
Right. Oh yeah.
No, he does actually. He'll admit to it, but he's a good sport. But it's like, it's funny though, man, because I've been with people, right? And they'll be like, well, these doctors are so arrogant. And it's like, you want them to be.
That's exactly what you need.
You want them to be. You want them to have the confidence to go in there and do what they need to do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You want some timid bro that's just like, I don't know. Does this look right? What do you guys think? Should we cut this out? Right. It's like, can you imagine the dynamic in there? And then people start going, oh, yeah. It's like when people go, well, LeBron James is arrogant. It's like you think?
Have to be.
There's not one dude on that court that's not massively arrogant. They've been the greatest basketball player their entire life until they hit the NBA.
Yep.
And they're still, world class. You want your guys humble? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell are you talking about?
There's 8 billion people on this planet, and there's 450 in the NBA.
Right.
You got to have a little ego to get there.
Exactly. Plus, you want them to be arrogant enough to be like, I'm taking this shot.
Yep.
I'm going to take this game over. Yep. This dude is not going to score on me.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's just funny how people think. They think the world, it's almost like that Bible verse, right? Where the meek will inherit the earth. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, bullshit.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you guys can't see that. I don't know if you think that these people that run the world are meek.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But like, whatever.
Yep.
I actually had a guy one time explain to me what meek meant. And it was not what you think, right? People think meek is being weak and like passive and all this kind of stuff. They had a much better definition of it that actually fit that narrative, right? It's like, no. Meek people are kind. Yeah. But they're also powerful. It was something along those lines. I'm kind of butchering his quote, but like, I was like, oh yeah, well, that makes a lot more sense.
Power in groups of.
Yeah, almost like, it's like in life, right? Like the people that are successful in life have some sort of a driver in them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're just up your ass all the time or that they're like overbearing and stuff like that, but they're not going to let stuff slip. They're going to make the right choices. You know what I mean? They're going to move in the right direction. They're going to quickly pivot when they're not. You know what I mean?
Put the right people around them.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, and they surround themselves with great people and they cut shit people out of their lives and, or even just cut mediocre people out of their lives. Like at some point, you just got to run.
Yep.
Right? You can't always be dragging people. You got to freaking run at some point.
Yeah.
And so, but those are the people that run the world.
Yep.
Those are the people that's how you run your household, right? Like you're the dad. Your kids and your wife, and they look up to you and, and you got to step up,
Yep, exactly, man.
So
took me a little while to figure that out. Yeah, it's some hard times, and you got to go through your process, trust the process, and get to where you want to be. And that's where it starts. Is that self-confidence, the bringing great people around you, because nobody gets there on their own, right? Yeah. I mean, the day you're born, like. Your parents are the ones that keep you alive for the first couple of years. Yeah. Your teachers, they're the ones that help teach you stuff. That's how you learn. And then in business, you got to have people around you. Not everybody's going to say yes to you. Yeah. You got to have those, contrary opinions and keep you in check a little bit if you get a little bit too out there. But it's a collaborative effort to get through this thing we call life. And, it's hard to do it alone. That's for sure.
Well, and it's not good to do it alone. It's just not. I was on a podcast yesterday. It's called the Prosperous Life podcast.
Okay.
It's this young kid, great kid, you know. And his whole thing is, you know, to bring people in, ask them, you know, philosophical questions and, you know, dive into a couple of things, get a little deep, get some advice kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about life and like what success means, you know? Mm-hmm. And I have this opinion, and I've kind of realized it over the last few months, funny enough, right? And that is people do not define what success is to them. They just don't.
Yeah.
Right? Or they get so basic with it, right, that they just go, well, you know, if I had $10 million, then I'd be successful. And it's like, really?
No.
That ain't it.
Nope.
Try again.
Yeah.
Right? And really, when you start diving into what success is for you, like you have to define what that is. What does success look like for me? Is a happy marriage success? Well, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, write that down. What do you need to have a happy marriage? You know, you're like, okay, there's 3 or 4 things, right? I want to be the hero to my kids.
Yep.
All right, cool. What does that look like? You know? And I think really when people really define this, and I'm a weirdo, I get that, right? I did this years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Because I wanted to build my life towards what I feel success is, right? And, and a lot of it too is also freedom. You know, the freedom to go and do things, the freedom to be able to do things too, right? Like we all have that buddy, right, who can't do shit because his wife won't let him, right? Well, really what that translates into for you young bucks out there, not that your wife won't let you do stuff, is that you haven't built a safe place for her and a trusting relationship with her that she's happy for you to go and do things.
Yep.
Because you fucked up.
Yep.
You know, and people are like, well, what do you mean? No, she's telling me this. And it's like, no, you have not created a safe place for her to be like, yeah, great, go have fun with your friends. That's wonderful. You know?
Yeah.
Because that's what you need in your life.
Yeah. And once you start looking inside and seeing that, you know, whatever your problem is, it's your problem that you caused. It's not their problem.
Yeah.
They're just reacting to what you're doing. Yeah. Do something different, you know?
Even last night, right, I was with a couple of my buddies, right, from my men's group, right? Great guys. I love being with them. One spends most of his time in San Diego, so he's in town, right? So we just smoke cigars in the back of the house, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking, and they're asking me about, it's been a little interesting in my men's group, right? It takes a lot of time up, right? It doesn't seem like it would, but it does because you get mentally involved in it a lot, right? And then you start doing a lot of self-development stuff, right? And that takes work. That takes time, you know? And they were asking me about a friend I had I had a friend for, I don't know, 25 years, right? Long time, you know, maybe 24 years. And they're like, and I've spoken about it before because we basically ended our friendship last year, right? And it was okay. Yeah. You know, it's an interesting thing because when people hear my perspective, I go, listen, you know, he was mad about a couple things. He felt like I left him behind in life and, you know, all this selfish shit basically, right? Yeah, he's just really, really selfish, in my opinion. And then it was funny because at the end of the year, I wrote him an email because I thought that was the best way to deliver the message. And I was basically just like, dude, we had a great run, man. We were friends for 25 years, but this chapter is closing.
Yep.
You know? And there was some more stuff that was said in there that was more poignant to our particular relationship.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And these guys were like, oh, it's crazy, man, blah, 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 blah. And I go, you guys want to know the craziest part? They're like, what? I'm like, it's my fault. This relationship ending is my fault. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, dude, I there's so many ways I didn't show up, and I enabled like crazy. I enabled way too much, and it forced him into being a selfish person, you know, in our relationship, not in his whole life. I don't want to say that he's a selfish guy in everything that he does. It's just in our relationship, you know? And my one buddy looks at me and goes, dude, that's actually like super deep. And I was like, I guess, but like, it's just also the truth.
Yeah.
You know, if I would have fostered that relationship better, if I would have been a better friend at times and been like, no, dude, don't do this, or this, we're not going to do it this way, you know, or, and you know, when you're friends for someone for 25 years, I'm not the same person I was when we first became friends.
Oh,
I'm not
exactly.
freaking close. I'm 10 lifetimes different, you know?
Yeah.
And so is he, you know? And I don't know, it's just interesting looking at life because really what I find success in is in relationships. Yeah. You know, like, you know me, there's a bazillion people I could talk to. I only talk to the people I like. Yeah. It's really true. Exactly. Right? If you ever get outside that fence, like, I just don't talk to you. I get a phone call or two every day from somebody that I don't want to talk to. Yeah. I just let it go to voicemail. Yep. And then delete it. Yep. You know what I mean? And it's like, I used to kind of feel like a dick about that, right? But like, I really don't anymore. I'm just like, no, man, like, you know, like, I'm on a different frequency.
Yeah.
You're normally hitting me up for money. So,
yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's
just
let
like
something drag you down.
Yeah.
And, being in sales, let's say you have 100 clients, right? And you've got, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. I don't care if, you're in the middle of your backswing at Pebble Beach or you're cutting the umbilical cord for your kid, like you're answering that call.
Right.
Right. There's, 1, 2, maybe 3, and then you've got, 80% of them, I'll either try and answer your call or I'll get back to you within an hour. I'll do it really, really quickly. And then you got 10, 12% of it is, if it's really important, I'll just wait for you to call me back.
Yeah.
And then a few of them, you're just like, man, I just hope they never call, because I don't want to talk to them. I love it because it's helping feed my kids and it's making me money and doing all that. But, whether it's a friendship, a client or whatever, like if it's a drain on you, like you just got to walk away. Yeah. You have to. And I learned that. It took me a while to learn that, just get rid of all the negativity and just all the stuff that you want to deal with, because you don't have to, right? You can make that choice.
Yeah.
And, maybe, 25 years would have been 20 or 18 or
5.
What have you, or 5. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting that way. But yeah, I mean, just like you said, I mean, building relationships, everybody's got a great skill at something.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I can talk insurance for, hours and hours. You'd be bored as hell, but I could do that.
That is not true, actually.
But I'm sitting down with Dr. Nick and he's talking to me about, being a doctor and doing surgery. I got no idea. But if I have something and he has something and we come together and do something magical together, then, that's the power of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So segue into insurance, right? Because we should talk about that a little bit. So there's 2 things of insurance I want you to talk about. First one, let's talk about it's binding insurance policies from people who are passing away. What do you even call that?
So it's life settlements.
Life settlements, yeah.
So yeah.
So explain that to the listening audience.
Okay, yeah. So life settlements. Probably after this conversation, you're gonna be watching TV or listen to the radio, and you're gonna hear a Coventry Direct commercial, right? It's the 2 elderly people sitting on a park bench saying, "Well, our kids are doing fine, and this insurance policy is getting expensive, and we didn't know we could sell it." Well, you actually can, and it's actually one of the best assets out there because it's really one of the only things that you can purchase that if you buy it today, it's always going to be worth more tomorrow, because it's based on life expectancy and the actuarials that what are we? I'm 43. How old are you?
41.
41, right? So maybe in a couple of years, you gather every single medical record you have and you send it off to these people. Like they're going to pinpoint within like 6 months when you're going to go, kind of thing. Yeah. And so the life settlement contract is, you have $1 million policy. You don't want it anymore. You don't need it anymore. And there's some cash value built up into it. So, you got 2 options. You can walk away from it, cash it out, and get, let's say $100,000. Or depending on your age, your longevity, your health, you can sell it to somebody else for, $250, let's call it. So what happens is they'll sell you the policy. You're going to continue paying the premiums if there are premiums going. And when they pass away, the insurance company just sends you the check. So you're put on there as the irrevocable beneficiary. And, it's pretty much everything about life insurance is tax-free. So there's definitely...
Because when you get paid out, it's tax-free.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, there's also another side to it too, right? Because you have some people that have like cancer, right? They have a decent sized policy. Yeah. They've been given 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, right?
Yep.
Sometimes 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 years.
Yep.
But then they can sell their policies that are worth, let's just say $1 million, keep the numbers easy, right? You might pick that policy up for $400,000. Yep. And they get $400,000 to spend during their lifetime.
Yes.
But then when they die, the person that buys the policy gets the $1 million payout.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And the reason why I find it super interesting, right? Because I think when you first present this to people, because I've told people about this, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, that's morbid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, let's get past the initial knee-jerk reaction of this. It's actually not that morbid.
Yeah.
These people, this is locked up money for them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like what you're saying. Let's just say that all the kids are fine. It's going to be a freaking 70-year-old person, right? Their kids are all 40 and 50 years old. Right. And they want to go on one last cruise before they're bedridden for the last 3 months of this thing. Right.
Yeah.
But right in 1 month, they want to take their entire family on some wild vacation and build some dreams, or like, I don't know, buy a grandkid a car or something. Right. They want to spend some of that money. So there's a margin in there, right? You're going to spend $400. You know, there's some broker fees, I'm sure, right, or whatever, right? You end up getting paid out $1 million, right?
We're not going to do anything pro bono, right?
Yeah, no, and nor should you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's mostly, you know, you talk about the morbidity part, but you know, you get past that and you see the humanitarian part where. You know, our sweet spot is usually about a 2 to 3 year life expectancy, right? Yeah. And we had one client. You know, she has $100,000 policy, right? Small policy. That's her only asset, right? She had stage 4 cancer. You know, she was 3 months behind on her mortgage. The policy only cost her $10 a month. She had negative balance in her checking account. They were shutting her power off. So before we even purchased the policy from her, you know, we got the heat turned on, electricity turned on. And, you know, if you're in that position and the only asset you have is that $100,000 policy, and somebody comes in and says, hey, I'll give you $30,000 right now. Like, you might jump on it, right? Yeah. But if you've got, you know, a year to go and you're trying to, you know, put everything in order, take care of your kids, not lose your home, that kind of thing, you know, you might jump on that, right? But when you're talking about the life expectancy, the total amount of the policy, obviously the lower the life expectancy, the more money you're going to have to pay for the policy because you're going to get it back quicker, right? So with this one, we actually gave her, you know, 79 cents on the dollar, which is really unheard of because, you know, a company like, you know, I don't want to single them out, but, you know, Coventry Direct or, you know, one of these big conglomerates that are going to purchase the policy, they're not engaging with the client. You know, it's just a commodity to them, where we get almost all of our policies directly from the consumer. They come to us. You know, we don't force them to do anything, but we also offer a heck of a lot more than anybody else would. And, you know, it's the right thing to do, right? Like, I could go in there, it's $35,000, you know, keep 40 of it for myself, but, you know, I can't sleep at night. So, you know, that's the most important part of it is you take care of the Viator who's selling you the policy, take care of the client, you know, get you 20, 25, 30% return, and, you know, make a little bit in the middle. So everybody wins. You know, I'm not looking to step on somebody's neck to go, you know, make a couple extra dollars. I just, you know, I couldn't live with myself if I did that. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're helping people that have been just dealt a real shitty hand of cards. You know, you're buying it from them. You're giving them a little bit more financial security, a little bit more financial freedom, less stress, so they can live out their last, you know, 12, 24 months, you know, with a little bit more dignity. And, you know, it's the safest investment out there as well because, you know, World War, the markets, idiots in Washington doing whatever they do, like nothing affects it. Like, there's death and there's taxes. Right. You know, it's a guarantee. You know, if I tell you it's 24 months expectancy, you know, we got a really good track record, 84, 85%. You know, a few of them are going to go a little bit longer. A few of them are going to go a little bit quicker. But it's not like you're purchasing the policy and then you're sitting back in your house, you know, just praying that they go that quick. You know, you're just... I'm helping you out. You're helping me out. Everybody's doing great. And, you know, it's a collaborative effort with everybody involved, and everybody wins. Nobody loses.
How does the family feel about it? Are they normally okay with it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, buying a house, you get the mortgage documents. It's, thicker than 7 Bibles, right? Yeah. Well, we have to do the same thing where not only do we do all our own due diligence, all the medical records, we get that taken care of. There's certain policies that we won't buy. There's a 2-year contestability. So if it's a policy that's just taken out, we're not gonna purchase something like that. Everything that we do is going to be 100% safe and secure by law. Yeah. And so we get all the medical records, we get the life expectancy reports. We've got a couple doctors that we send our policies to. We look at 20, 30 of them a month. We buy maybe 1 or 2 of them. That's why our track record is so good. But yeah, it's just one of those things that people don't see as that good of an asset, or that people don't know that how good this asset is, because you purchase the policy for $75,000, you're getting $100 back, you're making that exact return. Is it going to be in 12 months? Is it going to be in 18? Is it going to be in 6? But you know exactly what you're getting, and about almost exactly when you're going to get it back, kind of thing. So it's definitely down to a science, and we do it very well. Yeah,
and there's millions of dollars of these policies being sold every year, right?
Oh yeah,
multiple companies all over the place.
Oh yeah, and so it's funny. It's I don't want to say it's frowned upon, but some insurance companies they don't like the idea of it. But the funny thing is the biggest purchasers of these policies are subsidiaries of insurance companies.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. And then Warren Buffett. I think the last I saw, he buys like $600 million a year worth of these things. Everything about life insurance is tax-free. So, and insurance companies are pretty much the safest place on the planet to have your money. They control more money than all the banks in the world combined. They actually have the money on backup, on standby. You go to the bank, you drop off $100, like you go back, there's 7 cents there, right? But with insurance companies, they got general funds, they've got reinsurance. You don't see insurance companies going out of business. And the best story I have is 2008, 2009 during the crash, AIG, right? Everybody knows $40 billion they needed in a bailout, right? Yeah. Well, I have my life insurance, my mom's, my wife's, everything through AIG, and no worries at all. The reason being is AIG is about 80 different companies, and it was 7 dudes in a room coming up with algorithms and credit default swaps that basically brought it all down. But during that time, if every single policyholder with an AIG policy passed away, like they've got the money on hand to pay those claims. Right. Like it's dollar for dollar. They have a general fund. They have, most of their assets in, 100% safe and secure places. A company like, New York Life, Allianz, these big ones, $1 trillion companies, right? Yeah. And if something ever happened to one of those, there's 20 companies behind them ready to pick up their business, right? So I think I'm going to say like early mid-90s. I can't remember the name of the company, but a small insurance company went out of business here in Utah, right? And 3 weeks later, they were bought up by somebody else because make good money in insurance. Yeah. They don't have these billion-dollar buildings and $1 trillion in assets for nothing, right? Yeah. Term life insurance, for example, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Well, they pay out like 2% of the time. Like you buy term life insurance because it's cheap and it goes a long way, but basically if I'm 43, if I took out a 30-year term policy today, like I'm guaranteed to live to 73, right? Because that's how the numbers work. They know you're not going to die within a certain period of time. And the claims on it is, I think 2-3% maybe. Oh, okay. So, if you got an accident, if something happens, obviously, you want your family protected and all that kind of stuff. But there's different types of policies for different reasons. And they all have their place. But, if you're collecting premiums for 30 years, not having to pay anything out, it's a pretty good gig.
Wasn't it like less than 2% of policies are even paid out on?
Yeah.
Something crazy like that, yeah.
Yep.
Because most people have term, right?
Yeah.
And when you actually buy term, you expect to not die.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
10, 20 years, basically, right? Isn't 20 years the longest term?
10, 20, and 30. I think there's actually 40-year term now as well. Yeah.
Expensive.
I mean, it's overall it's cheaper. So you take out a 10-year term, you outlive it. You take out another 10-year term, well, you're paying as a 53-year-old as opposed to...
Right. I guess that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so you lock it in at that lower premium payment, which is a great mind game, but you're never going to collect anyway, so...
Term life insurance is an interesting thing, right? Because, most people don't have it, and they really should.
Yeah.
Term is for 20 to 40-year-olds, right? Because then after that, you should buy... What kind of plan do I have? Is it universal life or is it whole life?
It's Index Universal Life.
Index Universal Life, yeah. Those are the real plans you want to get to, but you got to have a little bit of money.
Yeah. It's the different type of policy, different class. It'll, gain that cash value, and then after X amount of years, however long you're putting in, however much is in there, you can start taking out as policy loans where, you load those things up. And then
explain that. So explain the policy that I have, not the numbers that I have.
Yeah. So basically, there's let's say you take out $1 million policy, right? And just making up numbers to make it easy for me. So you take out $1 million policy, you're paying $1,000 a month for it, right? And with those types of policies, the Index Universal Life, you're paying that premium forever, up until a point where the cash value grows enough where the policy can sustain itself and take care of all the, fees and charges on a given year. So if you're doing really well in the market, and with yours, it's Index Universal Life. So, market goes up 20%, you might capture, 16, 17, 18% of it, right? But market drops 20%, you get credited with zero. Yeah. So, you don't lose 20% this year, and you got to make 40% next year just to get back where you started. So,
and I front end load mine, right? So the first 5 years I pay hefty amounts, and then after that I never pay again.
Yep, exactly.
There's actually a bank loan that pays the same amount as me. They put the same amount of money in, right?
No, so they pay 3 to 1. So,
okay, yeah.
So as opposed to doing $1,000 a month and then it taking years and years to build up. So what we do is we front load these things and max fund them. So you've got a 10 pay, and you're obligated for those first 5 years, right? So, instead of $1,000 a month for, you're putting in, say, $30,000 a year for 5 years, right? Well, you're putting in $30,000 a year for 5 years. You get the bank loan, they're matching 30 years for 5 years. And then the next 5 years, they're putting in 60. So you're getting 3 to 1 on your money right off the bat. And, if you're looking at, 10, 20, 30, 40 years of compound interest, and when you take it out, it's tax-free, like the numbers are mind-boggling, right? And when you're going for the loan, the great thing about it is no personal guarantees, there's no credit checks, no nothing like that.
Well, that's because the death benefit pays the loans off.
Yes,
right?
And the reason being is the bank will give you money all day long when it's 1,000% secured, right? Because the amount of money, the first 5 premium payments that you're making, that covers all the costs, the fees, everything like that. Yeah. The money that the bank is putting in, that's over and above what the actual cost of the policy is. So that money is protected by the general fund. Right. So that's 100% safe and secure with the insurance company. And so the bank is, going to freely give those loans. And that's going to be, the policy itself is the only collateral you need. Premium financing back in the day, they still do it now, traditional premium financing, but, you're going to go to the bank, You're going to give them every document that you have, maybe your firstborn and a blood sample, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to put up, you got 100 acres, you're going to have to put that up as collateral. You got, a few $1 million in a money market account or a brokerage account. You have to collaterally assign that to the bank, where they're going to have control over that until that loan is repaid, which, can be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. On the way that we work it is you put in for 5 years, we put in for 10 years, grows for about 4 or 5 more years. And in the 15th year, there's enough cash value in there. They suck that out. Loan is repaid. Policy's in your hands. There's enough cash value in there that you never have to put anything more into it. And you get a fully funded retirement account, tax-free pension, or, you can take out lump sums, however you want to do it. But
yeah, because it's kind of structured like in my 65th year or something, right? I can start taking money out of it if I want to.
So no, once the loan is paid off, you can take it out. So,
okay.
Yeah. So
well, they're structured though to hit the 65-year target though, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the way we illustrate it. But we can illustrate it you taking out right away. So the great thing about this is obviously the younger you are, the longer it's going to grow. And the more money you put in, the more money we put in, and the quicker it's going to grow. So, my dream has always been, growing up in the 90s, all you see is athletes who make 60, 70, 80, $100 million. 3 years later, they're dead broke, right? Yeah. So that has been like my lifelong dream to never see that crap again, right? Yeah. And so you look at, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Luka Doncic, right? $250 million contracts, right? They're paying taxes on that. They're paying their attorneys. They're paying their agents. So, you sign a 5-year, $250 million deal, you might collect 120, 130, something like that, right? Yeah. So if you just look at that and say, all right, for the next 5 years, you're making $40 million, $50 million, whatever. If you just take, and I ran some numbers with some of these people, because I've actually been able to get into that. I've broken into that, and I've been dealing with some athletes, and 24-year-old puts $3 million away for 5 years, right? So $15 million, you're talking like 5% of your total contract, right? Yeah. So you put that in, like you sign a contract for $250 million, like that's really good, right? Unfortunately, you got like 30 years to spend that, and that can be gone really quick. So, they're talking about these athletes signing generational wealth deals, right? Yeah. Well, that ain't the case, right? Because that can be gone quick. I mean, AI, you can name 1,000 players off the top of your head, because, once that money stops coming in and you still got your entourage, you still got all the things that you want to do, that money can go quick, right? Well, you take $15 million, you take 5% of what you just signed, not to mention that you're 24, you're going to be in the league for another decade, and you're probably going to make another $500 million, but, maybe collect half of that. Well, you take that $15 million, $3 million over 5 years, and put it into one of these, like your $15 million is going to grow with our 45. So $60 million is going to grow a hell of a lot quicker. Yeah. And,
a plan like that over 40 years is worth what? Hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Like $700 million tax-free, which in 30 years, you're going to need $3 billion pre-tax to equal that same amount. So, you sign a 5-year deal with me, and that's going to be the largest contract you've ever signed. Yeah. So, it just makes sense. And,
are these guys catching on to the vision?
Yeah. Some of them, yeah. Just got to break in a little bit, penetrate it a little bit deeper.
Well, I think the problem is when people look at these, they don't believe them.
Yeah. I mean, it does. It definitely looks way too good to be true. I mean, my kid is 16. My oldest daughter, or my oldest kid, my daughter, she's 16. So in 2 years, so you can do these anywhere between the ages of 18 and 65, right? Because when you get up to, late 50s, early 60s, it's more of a, I've got $1 million and I want to leave it to my kids or grandkids. Well, you put $1 million into something like this and you're going to leave your kids and grandkids 10, right? But if you're talking about, somebody 18, 20, 25, if I just put 25 grand a year away for my daughter when she turns 18, when she retires, she's living off of like 300 grand a year tax free. So that takes away that stress. It takes away I need to save for retirement, instead of, maybe buying my first home, or, it just takes that weight off your shoulders, knowing that your future's secure, even if you make a ton of mistakes or you just, invest in a bunch of stuff and it doesn't hit. Lamar Jackson, he could lose everything and still have, $2, $3, $4 million a year pension. But yeah, that point that I wanted to get to was, you're 18 years old and you're putting, a ton of money away into this thing. Well, when you turn 33, you've got access to it. So, right. My daughter will have access to a few $100,000 when she's 33. That's a down payment for a house. That's, whatever. But yeah, when you're talking about these bigger numbers with these athletes, if you're 24, you retire, you're 39, you can start taking it out and $1 million a year tax free. So, you just don't want anybody ever to, I'd rather have no money than have 100 million and just lose it all. Right. I mean, it'd be a good ride, right? But you would miss it.
Yeah, but that's part of the problem, right? Is I think when people start making money and they start really understanding how money works, right? Like, these policies are a very certain diamond level asset class.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, don't put everything in it, but you have to make it part of your portfolio.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, what, 5% of your portfolio is probably
yeah, exactly
accurate, at least,
Yeah.
And especially athletes. I mean, one thing that people don't get, I mean, they'll probably hear you say like, I'll lose $100 million, would have been an idiot. And it's like, well, you never know with these guys, I mean, they freaking get divorced. Right. They have kids all over the place, and they
get into bad deals, or you just, you're making
shit that happens.
You're making 20 million a year and you're spending 15 of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is stupid. Like, no one here is saying it's not stupid, right? But it is fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fun for them.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you enjoy what you're doing. Right?
Yeah, but these type of plans, it's like every athlete should be, force is not the right word. We live in America, right? But like they should be heavily persuaded at the beginning of their careers to jump into stuff like this.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Because in my opinion, these guys have worked their freaking asses off their entire lives, pretty much, their entire wakeable lives, right? To make it to the league. The average career in the NFL is 3.5 years, right? NBA is a little bit longer, a little bit better, right? It's a little bit more secure. But even baseball or hockey or any of these sports, or even if you're just a business owner and you built a business up real quick, you're about to sell it when you're 35 or 40 or 50, right? Yeah. Like if you're in your 30s, you get some of these plans and you add that to your asset class, right? It just protects you for the rest of your life. Yeah. And it protects your family too.
Yep. Takes that weight off your shoulders and legitimately creates that generational wealth that you're looking for. Yeah. So, when we're talking about this, like, obviously I care about the client, I care about their family, but I'm looking 3 generations ahead, right? Like I want to be able to, on your deathbed, that 5 generations from now, your family's going to be okay, right? They're going to be taken care of because you had the foresight to do something when you were able to do it. And you took care of, everybody in your bloodline for the rest of the time. Yeah. And, the biggest problem coming down the pike right now, I mean, you see it in Washington and, taxes, right? The CBO already said, probably 10 years from now, taxes are going to be double what we're paying right now. Yeah. And, if everything stays the way it's going, like there's only going to be two classes of people, right? There's going to be the haves, the have-nots. Yeah. And you want to keep the country going, you want to keep running it, there's only one place you're going to get that money from. So, in the time right now of historical low tax rates, even though, there's plenty of people complaining and, I complain as well, but, it's historically low tax rates. And, to illustrate that point, I'm working with a buddy of mine. He's same age as I am. He's got $500,000 in an IRA, right? So if you touch that money before you're 59 and a half, right? They take 10% off the top, right? And so you're at 450, and the average tax on that is you're looking at like another 40%, right? So you cash that thing out, you're $230,000 down, right?
Yep.
It doesn't feel good. But you take that 230,000 or the 270 that's remaining, you put 54 grand a year into something like this. Day one, that $500,000 of taxable money that you had that you can't touch turns into $1.6 million.
Yeah.
Death benefit for your family, 100% tax free. Yeah. And then 15 years later, 20 years later, you're ready to retire, you're living off 125 grand a year tax free, 10, 12 grand a month. And none of that's going to Uncle Sam. Yeah. So, is it a smart idea to pay 230 grand in taxes right off the bat? Well, if you get something like this, it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's just
401ks and IRAs are actually not that good of an investment.
No,
the real good investment on that is a company match.
Yep.
But if your company doesn't match your 401k,
there's no reason to do it. I mean, even if you're getting 6%, 9% match, even, you're paying taxes on half of that when it comes out.
Yeah.
And the idea of them is, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you get older, and you won't have the income from your job. You're only going to have the income from this asset. But, depending on how much you have and how much you save, like that goes quickly when Uncle Sam reaches into your pocket, takes half of it from you. So,
and they keep growing the federal government. So
they do. That ain't going to stop.
Got an argument the other day with one of my buddies, and we're talking about the federal government, and I'm like, guys, the federal government's in a tax and grow.
Nope.
Right? That's not what they're for. They're to stabilize the economy, protect us, secure the border. That is all the federal government should ever do, right?
Yep.
But we keep pushing social programs up into the federal government, right? And then we want them to freaking, basically nanny state the entire country.
Yep.
And how do you do that? You got to have program after program after program, and you got to freaking tax the shit out of everybody.
Every single segment of society. Yep. So, and all that costs money.
It's the funny thing with the government, like we did this as a society. We built this.
I would say America is just one giant self-inflicted wound.
Yeah.
That's how I would put it.
And most countries are, right? Most governments are. That's why, we had a good run. Close to 300 years, right?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, still better than
historically not bad.
Yeah, I mean, still the best place. So, how I'm first generation born, right? Yeah. My dad came from Hungary. He grew up on the streets of Budapest, right? And so he's, I don't know what you were doing when you were 17 years old, but like he is the absolute strongest dude I've ever known, right? Unfortunately, he passed away a little while ago, but so he's 17 years old. It's 1965. Hungarian Revolution was, 9 years before. They were still communists up until 1989. Mm-hmm. And so, he's 17 years old. When you turn 18, you've got to go into the military for 2 years, right? So he definitely didn't want to do that. And so he went to his mom, my grandma. God rest her soul. I mean, she made it to 103, right? She lived on her own until I think she was like 93, 94 in downtown Budapest. But anyway, he went to her and said, listen, I'm not going to make it if I keep doing what I'm doing and I stay on the path that I'm on. So, I'm going to get out of here, right? So his friend a year earlier had escaped. And so went to my grandma and said, listen, I'm out of here. She gave him every dollar that he had, or every dollar that she had, which was almost nothing. Him and his buddy got on a train, made it down to old Yugoslavia. I think it was like southern Croatia. And so they're hiding in the bushes. Guards hear them because my dad's buddy made some noise, coughed, whatever. So picked him up, threw him in jail. So he's in jail for 6 months. And while he was in there, the people that were in there before him, writing on the walls, like, this is how you do it, and this is how you get out, that kind of thing. So, got out of prison, and, left his friend behind because he didn't want to get caught again. So he gets down to, the waterfront, Adriatic Sea. And so from land, about a mile and a half, there's a lighthouse out there in the Adriatic, and there's a patrol boat that goes back and forth, right? Just monitoring everything. Yeah. So 10 o'clock at night, he gets into, shark-infested waters, swims all the way around this lighthouse, and 5 a.m, gets picked up by an Italian fishing trawler. They take him to a Red Cross camp in Trieste. He stays there for 6 months, and they said, "Where do you want to go?" He's like, "America, streets are paved with gold," right? Yeah. And so gets to New York. A few days later, he's walking, no language, no money, no nothing. His friend was in Florida at the time, so he was just trying to get down there. He's walking through Central Park, sees a woman, in trouble, getting harassed and, getting mugged or whatever. He's just that type of dude. He's going to step in and try and do something, right? Gets stabbed, almost dies. And, eventually he makes it down to Florida, meets up with his buddy. They make it up to Detroit. They're working for a moving company. And he was moving my mom's family out of their house in Detroit. And they met, and I came along a few years later. So it's, it's just a reminder that there's not one thing that I'm ever going to go through in my life that would be as hard to do as trying to escape communism, running through countries that you don't know the language, getting to America, just going through that whole thing.
Did he always feel like he lived the American dream?
He did. He's a quiet guy. He's a rough childhood. Went through some bad stuff. I don't even know half of it, because he didn't, really talk about it too much, but, no, man,
was he a strict father?
A little bit, when he said something, like, it was gospel.
Yeah, he
right?
meant it.
Like my mom was, a little bit more of the disciplinarian, but if it got to a point where I screwed up that much and he had to say something, you don't want to have to deal with that. Yeah. But I mean, he's, he was, I think at his peak, he might've been like 5'10", $155, something like that. Yeah. And, so, didn't have that domineering presence, but yeah, he said something, he looked at you, you're, you'd straighten up kind of.
And what's your mom's heritage?
So her dad was, so he was in the Canadian Royal Air Force. So she's Jewish. And so by birth, I'm Jewish as well. But Jewish, Canadian, I think there's like some English, some Scottish, like just mutt on that side of the family. So, but they gave me the big broad shoulders, so I'm happy about that. But they also took away my hair. So.
Oh, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, you gotta pull that bick out eventually, right? I did it probably 2-3 years too late, but
I did too. I was just telling the story the other day. It was funny because people were talking about hair, and they're like, "When did you start shaving your head?" I was like, "It was my late 20s." I still remember the day, dude. I held on to my hair for a long time. I got some real big cul-de-sacs, right, kind of going on right here. When it started thinning in the back, I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm just not gonna fry or tuck this thing up. And
what I
mean? F it. It's like whatever. You stole it. I'm gonna cut it off, right? So I went out on my back porch and I shaved my head. with like, just a home razor kind of thing, right? I didn't pick it. I just took it down to a 1, or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of holding it and doing it, making sure I wasn't missing hairs. I wasn't really looking at it, So then I went inside to kind of finish it up and, look in a mirror and stuff. And I remember looking at my head, and I kind of turned to the side a little bit, and I was looking at it. And I'm not really a guy that gets real emotional.
Right.
And I literally felt like bawling my eyes out.
Oh, yeah.
I fucking hated it.
Because it's that time.
I hated how it looked, dude. And plus, I had hair, right? So my head was like white, where the hair was, kind of mostly. I just remember looking at my head and being like, I don't know if I'm a guy that looks good with a shaved head.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the hardest time with it because, like, I don't know. I look at it, I'm like, man, that's oddly shaped.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. But no, I was walking, I was walking in Smith's, and like I almost cried like a baby too, right? So you walk in the doors and you look up, and there's that circle mirror reflecting down, right? And so I'm walking in and I look up and I glance, I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I look up, I was like, oh my God. And like, it's just, you got that, you don't want that friar tuck, and you've got, it was thinning over a bunch of years, but that was I walked into a brick wall moment. Like, it's time, man, because you look ridiculous.
I know, dude. And then, what is it? A week later, the sun finally fades you into one color up there, and you're just kind of like, I guess this is me.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's funny too, because I've had people, men and women, tell me I look good with a shaved head, and
yeah.
I bet it was 8 years before I believed it, Yeah. I mean, I took the compliment, was kind about it, right? Like, oh, thank you, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But I'd be like, bullshit.
Yeah.
You should have seen me with hair, man. I was gorgeous.
Nice flowing lettuce.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I got a bunch of friends, that have hair. I mean, I have friends that don't have hair too, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But like the ones that have hair, I'm like, oh, you lucky bastard. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like my friend Nick, the doctor, right?
Yeah,
he's got amazing hair.
Oh, he's got some luscious locks.
Yeah. Hopefully he never loses it, but
well,
some people just have it. My little brother Brett, dude, he's got amazing hair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my family, it's either you got like the nice thick, on my mom's side, anyway, the nice Jewish curls and nice thick head of hair. But I didn't.
Does your mom look Jewish?
Oh,
like a stereotypical kind of Jew?
Kind of. Yeah. You can tell. Yeah.
You want to know the funny thing about me?
What's that?
I had no idea what that was until I went on my mission.
With Judaism or?
No, I knew what Judaism was, but I didn't realize they had like a look. You know what I mean? Like a. Well, there's what would you call that? Like a hair, almost like a race. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's a race and a religion. So.
Right. But I didn't know about the race side of it. No idea, right? Because I remember being in the mission, like, all these people in Hollywood are Jewish. I'm like, how do you know? They're like, well, their noses and like just their eyes and like, and I'm like, what? I literally never had occurred to me, dude. Almost like I was from the moon and never saw a black person. Like, people have dark skin. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. People aren't like me. And because I met this girl and she came up to me and she was wearing a Star of David, right? And she said that she had converted to Judaism, right? And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then my companion had been like, well, how can you do that? Because it's a nationality, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, what does that mean? Like, dude, it was so weird. I was just caught in this like really weird thing, right?
Yeah.
And so like even nowadays, right? So did you ever watch the roast of James Franco?
Oh my God.
Okay, so you know how they just crack Jewish joke after Jewish joke, right?
Oh, 100%.
And I'm like, even to this day, I'm kind of like, I don't get all these.
Right.
Like I don't, like what's the anti-Semitic? Is that what the word for it is, right?
Yeah, being anti.
Where they're like racist against, or they're not, like it's prejudice, not racist, but prejudice against Jewish people.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know. I'm like, it's like this weird thing in me. I don't really talk about it much, right? Because I'm like, why would you pick Jewish people and just go after them? Like, I don't get it. Also, how the hell do you tell?
Right.
Like, like Paul Rudd, right? Supposedly he's Jewish. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, you get some of like the Orthodox Jews that have like the hair, right? Like they come down the sides. Like, obviously that's easy to tell.
Yeah.
So like a Mormon guy, if his garments are on, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of easy to tell, right?
Yeah.
And which is funny because one of my favorite shows growing up was Fiddler on the Roof. But I never actually understood what that movie was about until my late 20s.
Yeah.
Right? It was like the expulsion of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even in the movie, right? Because you got like the local governments coming in and kind of busting their families up and busting their asses. And I was like, oh, I like the music in here. I was just so innocent to like the Jewish nation. You know what I mean? I was like, then you realize it's like, well, the Jewish nation basically built our hospitals in America, right? And then they built the banking system in America. And like, there's all these amazing things that have come out of it. I've always been like, oh, that's really, really cool. And then it's like, then people are like, oh, this person's anti-Semitic. And I'm like,
no,
what do you mean?
Observant, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you look at, Hollywood, finance, banking, doctor, the Mossad.
Yeah.
Elite military forces.
And America's always been very, very pro-Jewish, right? As a nation. Is that not true? Because isn't Israel Jewish?
Yeah, Israel.
Yeah. We're like...
That's the motherland.
Yeah.
But then, it was given to them after the war and, all the history behind it. They shouldn't be in the Middle East because they're not Middle Eastern, but Jerusalem is in the Middle East. That's where Jesus was. Like, it just... Like,
then Islam claims the same Holy Land and
exactly.
Palestinians.
And,
it's one of the things that there's certain things I get really fanatical about. Like if I watch a movie by myself, I normally have Wikipedia open and I'm just Wikipedia and shit, right? Just learning about actors and stuff. But the history of the Jewish people and the Palestinians and the Islam and like even, obviously Christianity comes from there because Christ was a Jew. And I mean, I know enough to like have a conversation, but I've never really dove like super deep into it. But like, it's wild though, because it's really world history.
It is
like thick world history,
Yep.
And so I don't know, I just always thought it was funny. It's just kind of funny. It's like, even when you told me you were Jewish, I was like, okay.
Yeah, because my last name.
Like,
and,
what? Your last name would never. For me, dude, it would never tell me. It would never tell me that.
Oh yeah, that's why.
Like if I met you today, I'd just be like, "Yes, it's Andrew." If they were like, "Is he white?" I'd be like, "Yep." You know what I mean? Like I just because your skin's white. I don't know. It's just this thing with me where I'm like, I don't get the Jewish thing, but like, I don't know. Plus, I kind of like it. I kind of like. Is it Hasidic? Is that how you say that word? Hasidic Jews.
Hasidic, Orthodox. Depending on the level.
Because the Hasidics are like very like staunch, right? Like boom, boom, boom. Like we do
I've got some in my family as well, and I've got a cousin where, when she got married, like I couldn't hug her and congratulate her because only the husband is allowed to touch his spouse. Oh, and even though it's my cousin,
that's a Hasidic thing.
Yeah. Okay. And Hasidic, Orthodox. I get confused on those once in a while, but they're and she has to you can't show your hair, so she's wearing a wig. You can't show any skin. It's very super conservative. Yeah. And kosher food, right?
Do they speak a certain language?
Yiddish.
They speak Yiddish. Okay. Yeah.
And so like my mom's Jewish, my dad was Catholic maybe, but like religion wasn't a huge
probably
thing.
Whatever was forced on him, right?
Yeah. So I went to some masses with some friends, and some of my cousins got their bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah. So I got Christmas and 8 days of fun. So, it's just interesting getting a little piece of everything, and obviously to your point of you don't really see too much dark skin around here. There's like 12 Jews, I think, in Utah. I think the last I saw was like there's 4,400 in the population, but
in Utah.
I think the majority of them are second homeowners up in Park City or something like that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, coming from Detroit, on the outskirts of Detroit, other than the coast, New York and LA, the biggest concentration of Jewish people is in Detroit, right?
Oh, okay.
And then the biggest.
Why is that?
Auto industry, I think, is where it started, and then.
Is that because there was good jobs, so kind of communities would move there, kind of thing?
I think so. And then the highest population of Muslims is also in Detroit, so they're Dearborn, and so. And then obviously, African Americans in Detroit, but we had, it's just a plethora of everything. So you're exposed to everything. Yeah. When I first came out here, like the only thing I knew about Utah was polygamy and, 30 kids in every family or something.
Which isn't that funny,
so we got out of school. And, the wife got a job out here and she's like, Utah? I was like, okay. I did a little research and, No, I didn't do a little research. I only knew 2 things.
right.
But yeah, coming out here, you know, it's not that there's less diversity in Utah, which is 1,000% apparent.
Yeah.
But it's just it just seems like it's closed off a little bit.
Well, it is for sure. It's such an interesting dynamic here, right? Because like what I'm saying with like the way I grew up, right? I grew up in a very white area. I mean, there was a couple black kids that went to my school. A lot of people in Utah adopt black kids too, right? So, but we're not really raised racist. You know what I'm saying? Right? There's stereotypes, but I didn't feel like we were like, oh, you can't talk to black people, or you can't talk to Jewish people, or a Muslim or something like that, right? They're very staunch in like, this is the one true religion that we live in, but we should accept everybody, right? So quite frankly, when I went on my mission, it was odd to me that there was not Mormons.
Right.
Right. When I say not Mormons, I mean, there was like no Mormons. Because I came from, I grew up in Highland Alpine, like the most concentrated area of Mormons ever, right? And probably still to this day. You know?
Yeah.
And affluent people too, right?
Every time I go south of the point of the mountain, I feel like I'm going to get struck down or something like that.
Right. But but my parents, they just didn't talk about Jewish people. It just wasn't a thing. Yeah. Right? It's almost like we don't talk about people from Madagascar. Yeah. You know, or like, I don't know what religion's on there. If I went there, I wouldn't know shit. Nope. You know? And so when you get around people, but there's also stereotypes, right? Like when you came here, you knew stereotypes. Right. And obviously, you know, the polygamy is real banged underground, and it has been for 100 years. Here, right. But when you hear these things and you come here, to me nowadays it gets so wrapped up in like, well, you're racist if you think that. It's like, no, like I barely knew anything about Utah. When you came to Utah, you met a bunch of people, you learned the culture, right? You realized how that actually works, and then you just became knowledgeable. Yep. You know, it's not like you're sitting in your house worried about, you know, polygamists going to come get you or get your kids. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Yeah. I think that's the same way almost across the entire country, right? Don't get me wrong, there's definitely racist pockets, right? Oh, yeah. And that's a top behavior, right? But in general, right? I mean, most of us, when we meet people, we just meet people. Yeah. You know, I've traveled this country a shit ton, right? You know, I've talked to, it doesn't matter, liberals, whites, black, Chinese, blah, blah, all this kind of stuff, right? And like the more, like once, we're all human, you just realize it eventually, you know? Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's funny to come from a world where, like my dad's Scottish, right? He was born and raised over there and moved over here, right? They're not really racist towards blacks in Scotland at all. They are towards Pakistani people. Yeah. Right? Interesting. And they have, you know, slurs I'm not going to say because I don't even know if they're applicable anymore or whatever, right? But like, they feel like they're infiltrating their country, you know, it's that whole freaking thing, right? Yeah. And so my dad, like, he doesn't give a shit about black. Like, you're person. You know what I mean? Right, it's just, he's just not in his world. And so partly the ways that I was raised, you know, between my parents, it was just like, you know, I mean, my mom comes from a family that was in America for a while. So they're a little more, I would say probably racist things were said about more like Mexicans kind of thing. Right. But that's coming from their grandparents to my grandparents, to my mom. Yeah. By the time it hit my mom, it was kind of like, well, no, they're just people like everybody else, you know. Yeah, that's, you know, sister, you know, Carlos, whatever, you know, or like, freaking Mexican last name, you know. Martinez, there we go. We go Martinez. I don't know. It's interesting, like, to watch this country is such a, you know, just a melting pot of like cultures and people, and you know, and really it's beautiful, you know. Like culture appropriation drives me fucking crazy, right? Number one, it's bullshit, right? You can't even trace this shit back, but getting to understand other people's cultures is amazing. Right. You know, like say you were like, you never had done Christmas in your life, right? Yeah. You've come over here to America, right? Your neighbor's like, hey, come over to my house for Christmas dinner. And you're like, what the hell is this? A tree, and everyone's giving presents. They're giving you presents. You're having this amazing meal. You have this massive cultural experience, right? Exactly. It's like, this is amazing. And then you go, hey, we do Hanukkah. Roll over here. We do it for 8 days. You know, we light these candles. And then they come like, oh, cool, let's go over here. You know, I don't know if you eat unleavened bread or whatever the hell goes on. I don't even know. You know what I mean? But it's like, oh, cool. Have some of my food. Have some of my food. Yeah. And it's like, that is how people enjoy their life. Yeah. Really at the end of the day. Not even meet people, just enjoy your life. Yeah. And with I mean, you know, when you bring it down to the basic, like food. Yeah. Like, I mean, we get some really crap food, right? Yeah. There's some really crap food in England. There's some really crap food all over the place. Yeah. But, you know, you get a taste of different cultures. Like, you know, you like Indian foods, you
Mexican food. Like you have to enjoy where it came from as well as what it is. Right.
Well, it's history too, right?
Acknowledge it. Yeah, exactly. Like,
like Greek food, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's very distinct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's a reason why.
Yep. Exactly.
There's olive oil in everything. Well, it's because there's a bazillion olive trees over there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if you go up to Washington State and they're like, apple pie, apple pie, apple pie. Well, no shit. They've got a bazillion acres of freaking apple orchards. And so they're like, let's make apple pie out of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, has nothing to do with anything other than that's just what's local.
Right. Yeah.
Italian food is actually very interesting, right? Americans have bastardized it.
Oh, yeah.
Italian food is really seafood. Mm-hmm. Mostly seafood. Yep. But over here, it's pasta Alfredo and spaghetti, lasagna. Yep. That's Italian food. And a shit ton of Parmesan.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oil, Parmesan.
Yeah. And I like both versions of it, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing, dude. I don't know. I really like culture. I think it's fun. It's fun to travel. And, I've traveled a lot recently. I've been down to Brazil and Argentina, and, I went to Iceland. Iceland was wild.
Yeah.
Because it's a country that we don't really talk about much here in America.
Right.
Right.
And it's freaking beautiful, man.
It's amazingly beautiful. Yeah. And the food, there's a ton of lamb up there. And
they also, I think I was watching a show, they have that like fermented fish in a can that you open it up and it smells like hot garbage and death. But it's a delicacy over there, right? Like you don't want to, I don't know.
Every meal I had over there was good.
I'm always down to try almost everything once.
Yeah.
But,
I'll tell you something funny over there, even though we're hanging up against our time here. But when I went over there, they had like these, the old school McDonald's, right? They have like the roof line with like the yellow lighted stripes or painted stripes or whatever going on. So we stayed in a hostel right next to one of those, but it was called something else. It was called like
McDowell's.
No, like something burger, right?
Okay.
And you could tell they had renovated the place, right? All the colors were taken away. I think it was white and black or something like that, right? And I was like, that's kind of weird, And then you start realizing they don't have McDonald's anywhere.
Right.
Because they think it tastes like shit. Yep. And so it's like, you know what I mean? Yep. They do have Subway, and there's some Americanized crap over there, right?
Yeah.
But McDonald's, they just punted. And when I was in Scotland, one of the things I thought was hilarious, right, is they had one Taco Bell in the whole freaking country. It was downtown in Glasgow, right? So like a big city. And I'd ask the members, I'm like, oh, you guys ever go to that Taco Bell? They're like, pfft.
Yeah.
It's like shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like,
I'm
like, ask anybody else around the world, they're like, American food's kind of dog shit.
It is. It is dog shit. Especially a fast food, right?
Oh, my God.
But, when you're a teenager and you go over there, it's like, hell, we ate Taco Bell every other freaking day. Like, how do you guys not like this? You ever had a Mexican pizza? Blah, blah, blah. We used to make Mexican food for people all the time. But we'd go and grab the ingredients and cook it up and make tacos and stuff. And that was always awesome because it's homemade, right? But you kind of like, and here's another thing. McDonald's actually over in Scotland is amazing. Because they're not allowed to have the crap food that we have over here. That's like cheddar cheese for number one. It's not American cheese. They wouldn't put American cheese on something over there if you put a gun to their head. Right? They just wouldn't do it. And the sausage was locally sourced, and the muffins are freshly baked and all that kind of stuff. They're not made in a factory.
Put all that toxic shit in.
All the preservatives are gone and all that kind of stuff, dude. And it's like, this tastes amazing. Why does this taste so good? Then you realize it's like, well, that's because it's in the European Union and they ain't gonna allow in the GMO shit and yellow number 5 and all that kind of crap. So
exactly.
Anyways, but. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you're Jewish, so I guess I'm going to go off on Jewish people for a minute.
There we go, man.
my non-understanding.
We run the world,
I think you do. Yeah, I really do.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Is there a club? Do you guys get like a dividend or anything?
Yeah, there's a meeting. Bi-monthly.
Dude, I would love that, actually, if that was true. That'd be the funniest shit ever. It's like, all the conspiracy theories are real, you know? So, well, anyways, my friend, we're at an hour and a half, bro. We've flown through this, dude. Yeah,
there we go, man.
So it'll just be easy.
Yeah, comforting and comfortable. Got a little bit more comfortable in my own skin, being on camera and listen to my voice. We'll see what it sounds like on the recording.
You'll hate it, but you'll get used to it after like 2 minutes. Yeah. I hate my voice still. It's weird. I'm like, is that what I sound like to people? Like, okay. And I'm kind of teasing you a little bit. I got to give some people some background. It's right before we started. I was like, "You nervous?" And you're like, "Yeah, absolutely." I'm like, "Oh, I couldn't tell." I had one friend come on, bro, and he was just like,
Really?
And I was like, dude, you all right? I ended up talking to him for like 10 minutes before. I'm like, dude, here's the deal. If this doesn't go well, we'll just throw it away. Like, you're good. This isn't a gotcha podcast. This is I want you to be proud of this podcast and tell people about it. You know what I mean? I don't want people to be like freaking out on this thing.
I was asked about it, and she's like, well, where can I watch it? I was like, well, it's not live. Thank God.
Yeah.
There's going to be some editing process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll come out in about 3 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, man.
So I'll release it on YouTube. So yeah, I'll get it up on YouTube quick. Then you can have it's really fun if your family wants to watch it, right?
Oh,
watch
absolutely.
it on YouTube and yeah, it's cool.
It's awesome. Yeah, so, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this experience, my man.
Well, thank you very much. I do require one thing though before we end.
Okay.
I just want your best advice.
Best advice. The more you give, the more you're going to receive. That's it. Very simple.
Excellent.
The more you give, the more you're going to receive.
Yeah.
You put good out, you're going to get good back.
Yeah.
You'll be a piece of, that's all you're going to get.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So yeah, just self-confidence. Just be a good human, man. Yeah. There's not enough of us out there that, it's really, it takes so much energy and so much of your time to be a dick, right? Yeah. Like, it's so easy to just be nice. Yeah. Like, that's it. Simple enough.
I have everyone say this at the end, and it's fun, right? So I think we're talking about around 90. It's between 85 and 92, this episode that we've recorded, right? And when I hit 100 of them, every 100 I'm going to make a block video of everyone's advice.
Oh,
nice. You call it the 2 minutes of advice, right? Most people hit 30 seconds or 40 seconds, which is fine. That's what I want, right?
Right.
And I'm looking at that. It's going to be like, this will be like a decently long video, and it'll just be like, bam, 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 all this advice, right? Almost like a motivational video.
Absolutely.
I'm like super excited for it, right? Because sometimes I participate, and it depends on how the conversation's going, right? And it's like, I don't know, I just think it's super cool to like kind of have like this motivation coming from normal people.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of the theme of my podcast, right? Is I'm bringing on people that I kind of like I would have Elon Musk on, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Because I find him fascinating, right? But his life advice doesn't really apply to people.
Yeah.
Right. It just doesn't.
Once you get to a certain level, like, nothing applies.
Well, yeah, and he's
person.
I think he's a little autistic. You know what I mean? He's very, very driven and laser focused. Like, people aren't like that, right? Yeah. And so, I just love the fact that I'm bringing on people that I love and that I respect, and it's like these are people that actually live in your community, or people that are like you. Even if you live in this in Florida, or even if you're listening to this in France, right? You know, it's like these are just normal people. We live lives. We have kids. We're doing the best that we can. We love our wives. Sometimes we don't. We divorce our wives. You know what I mean? Like, people that are on this podcast are just kind of like, I would call them all high achievers and people that are like living their life successfully, right? Yeah. The podcast is wonderful people living wonderful lives with a hint of business, right? That's kind of the tagline. And I don't know, I just love that part of bringing that on, because I think if you listen to this podcast, you're like, yeah, Andrew's a guy, he's in insurance and, blah, 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 blah. And my thing is like, you're crazy if you don't go on, if you listen to one of my guests, right? And you're like, oh, I really want to know more about this, right? Go on my Instagram, find you. We're obviously friends on there. Yeah. Hit you up and talk to you about insurance.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, you're an approachable person. And so far in here, every person I've had is someone you could actually approach and talk to as a listener.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And so,
I mean, everybody's got their own perspective on life.
Yeah.
And, I'm not 100% right on everything. You're not 100% right on everything. So you take a little bit from everything. And, build that block of nothing but good advice, and take what you want and leave what you don't. And
enjoy every day.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, Dakota, when I had Dakota on my podcast, he goes, I'm going to switch it up and have you give your advice. And I was like, cheater. And YOLO every day. Yeah. And if you can't YOLO, if you can't live your best life today, then you better build so that you can tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely, man.
That's kind of where I like this stuff to kind of fit in at.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best advice my father-in-law once told me. He said, money isn't the most important thing in life, but it sure makes life a lot easier. Yeah. It does, man. Freedom, like, and talking about success, like, success is waking up happy, content, happy. Do what you want to do, not what you have to do, right? Like, you know, I had to come on this damn podcast. I wanted to hang out with my kids. You know?
Yeah. But I'm going to make Mark happy today. Come on this thing.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I sacrificed a little bit. And, you know.
I love that, dude. That's fun. So well, cool, my friend. Thank you for coming on, dude. Seriously.
I appreciate the invite, man. I love you, bro. And you're pretty much one of the best humans I know that I've ever met. So
thank you, dude.
Really sure.
That's a compliment, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram at President McCormack.